We start with establishing a clearer view of the depth, breadth, and workings of the TIC industry. Among the top 10 reasons for creating this course has been the fact that it was always very tricky to explain to my friends and family about the industry I work in. If you are in the TIC industry, I'm sure you have faced this too. Several industries are very well known and established. Even the relatively younger ones, like software or so, are very well known. The assurance industry, on the other hand, is almost as old as trade is, yet not known as well as an industry. So, what is an industry? Now, if someone utters the word transport industry or petrochemical or consumer electronics, people think they know what a person does there, usually. Often the name of the industry comes from the grouping of goods or services that are bought or sold. Sometimes even the name of customers where these are selling into create a name. You will realize that the grouping also have unique terminologies, specific contextual meanings, and if you are much ahead than some of the others, you are also familiar with some of the standards which define these industries, which have specific names, and you could relate to the industry with the name of the standard. Now, if we look at any of these industries through the lens of the TIC industry or the assurance industry or the conformity industry, there is a widespread nomenclature, their view is only two-sided. There is either a buyer or a seller. Whatever is bought or sold needs an evaluation so as to put a value to it. This evaluation is key to the transaction. Now, the buyer is also known as the first party, and the seller is the second party. Sometimes, depending on the contract, the nomenclature could be swapped of who is the first party. For the evaluation to be independent, though, there is a need of a third party, or for the evaluation to be conducted independently, the evaluation body is third party or independent from the agreement between the buyer and the seller. Now, let me show you names of some industries, and I would like you to think in your mind if there is a third party in these industries across various contracts that you could think of. Whether you are thinking of an agriculture industry, and within the agriculture industry, there are several buyers or sellers. The same goes for financial services, construction industry. The list is pretty wide, and as I jump these names, I would like you to think of various buyers and sellers as combinations. Group them on a piece of paper. There should be a long list of names, in my opinion. So I would like you to list as many as you can think of, 20, 30, 40. And when you list these, try to think that can you imagine or can you think of who is the third party in these buyer-seller contracts. This is going to come handy towards the exercise which we have towards the end of this section. You could pause while you're writing as well, and I will move on. Now, almost all the time, industries have several standards which are specific to that industry. Then these also become identifiers for the nomenclature of this industry. Watch the screen and tell me if there are some things that you find interesting. Probably you are familiar with FSC, MSC, HACCP as standards, which are very peculiar and unique to the agriculture, forestry, or the fishing industry. The ISO 19426 series structures for mines shafts. The ANSI ASSE Z359.2, which sets the minimum requirements for comprehensive managed fall protection program, ATEX and HASLAW. I'm sure ISO 9001 or 14001 are some of the very, very popular standards, and you would have heard about the environment management systems or the occupational health and safety management systems. Not sure if 13485, which is for medical devices, or the TS 16949, which is the quality management systems for automotive industry, are as familiar. Note these down: NFPA, NBC, ACI, NFPA 241. Are any of these familiar? Let's see how many standards out of this list you have heard of or known of. ISO IEC 20000-1, which is Service Management System for IT Service Management, or 27002, which is the Code of Practice for Information Security Controls. ISO 22000, I'm guessing you may be familiar with this. ASTM E1528, which is standard practice for limited environmental due diligence. This is specific to the transactional screen process. The transport and logistics industry who use CTPAT, like the Customs Trade Partnership Against Terrorism, ISO 39001. For road traffic safety management systems, ISO 22301, which is for business continuity management systems, ISO 44001, which is collaborative business relationship management systems, QAA, which is the Quality Assurance Agency for Higher Education, ENQA for the European Association of Quality Assurance in Higher Education across the education industry. In sports and recreation, the EN 14974, which is surfacing for outdoor sports areas, specifically for skateboard and bike parts. In the hospitality and the tourism industry, there are ASTM standards, there are ISO standards, there are British standards. In the entertainment and media industry, there is the ISRC, which is the International Standard Recording Code, DDEX, ATSC, which is the Advanced Television Systems Committee Standards. In the real estate industry, there is ISO 55000 series of standards for asset management. There is the Urban Land Institute standards. In the healthcare and pharmaceuticals industry, there are again ISO 13485 referred earlier as well. NFPA 99, which is the Healthcare Facilities Code, ISO 14155, ICH Q7. In the financial industry, again, there are system standards by ISO, which is 20022. There is Basel III, which is the International Banking Standards, ISO 22222, Personal Financial Planning Standards. The energy and utilities standards, ranging from NFPA, IEC, IEEE, and so on and so forth. So, how long is your list? How many of these standards did you hear earlier? And can you imagine, if you look across all the industries, what a massive list this could be? Let's pause now and I'll give you a task which you should take up at the end of this section of the module so that we are able to move to the next one. Write about the non-TIC industry that you service or work in or come from, and list any published standards that are unique or define that industry. You may give more than one industry as an example. So, over to you,